Here's a lie that you've been fed your whole life. Wanting money is greedy. Charging for your gift is unspiritual. God should be satisfied with enough, not abundance. And it has kept you broke. It has kept you apologizing. It has kept you discounting your calling into something that barely pays the light bill. Here's what Proverbs actually says about that mindset. And it's not what your grandmother taught you. Somewhere along the way, the church traded wisdom for poverty. Not because scripture teaches it, but because poverty looks humble. Because a woman with money makes people uncomfortable. Because if you're always struggling, you're always dependent, and dependency looks like faithfulness. It's not. Proverbs has a word for the person who withholds, who hoards, who refuses to spend, refuses to invest, refuses to charge. It doesn't call her humble, it calls her a miser. And it says poverty is coming for her house. Here's what Proverbs 11:24 says. One gives freely, yet grows all the richer. Another withholds what he should give and only suffers want. Read that again. The one who gives grows richer. The one who holds back suffers want. That's not the prosperity gospel. That's not a televangelist asking for your seed. That's Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, saying, a clenched fist doesn't receive, the open hand does. Proverbs 28:22 says, a stingy man hastens after wealth and does not know that poverty will come upon him. Let me tell you what that means for you, woman of God. When you undercharge, that stinginess toward yourself, when you refuse to invest in your business, that's withholding that should be given. When you won't write the check for coaching, for systems, for support, that's the miser's math. And Proverbs says the miser loses every time. Now, watch this. Proverbs 23:7. For as he thinks in his heart, so is he. This is the verse people quote about mindset. But read the full passage. It's talking about a miser, a stingy man who invites you to dinner but counts every bite you take, who says, eat and drink, but his heart is not with you. The issue was never his wallet, it was his heart. What does that have to do with you? You think your money problem is logistics. You need a budget, you need more clients, you need to hit your next launch. But Proverbs says the problem is in the heart. If you believe wealth is unspiritual, you will sabotage every opportunity to build it. If you believe charging is guilt, you will discount yourself into depletion. If you believe giving is the only holy use of money, you will give yourself into resentment and call it ministry. That mind, Proverbs says, that mind will keep you poor. Not because the money isn't available, because your heart cannot receive it. Here's where it gets personal, friend. The woman who is cheap with herself cannot be generous with others. You cannot freely give if you have nothing. You cannot be a blessing if you are depleted. You cannot fund kingdom work if your own house is in shambles. Proverbs 3:9 says, honor the Lord with your wealth and with the first fruits of all your produce, not with your leftovers, not with what you scrape together after the bills are paid, with your wealth. Do you know what that word presupposes? That you have wealth to honor him with. God is not honored by your poverty. He is honored by your obedience, which included building so you have something to bring. The woman who refuses to build refuses to charge, refuses to earn, refuses to grow, and has nothing to give. And Proverbs 11:24 comes back around. One gives freely, yet grows all the richer. Giving and receiving are the same motion. Open hand out, open hand in. You cannot have one without the other. You cannot receive, you cannot truly give. And if you cannot truly give, you have blocked the flow of God's provision from your own life. Woman of God, hear me. The lie taught you that wanting wealth is greed. Proverbs says just the opposite. Proverbs says withholding is the sin. Proverbs says the stingy heart is the problem. Proverbs says God is waiting to fill your barns, but only when you stop clenching your fist. You're not bad with money. You were discipled into poverty and told that it was holiness. But Proverbs calls wealth blessing. Proverbs called the generous woman blessed. Proverbs calls the one who waters others will herself be watered. It's time to unlearn the lie. It is time to charge your worth without apologizing. It is time to build without guilt. And it is time to receive because you have something to give. Because the kingdom needs funded women. The kingdom needs women who can write the check without draining the savings. The kingdom needs you full, not depleted. Your boundary is your ministry. Your pricing is your permission. And your wealth is not your shame. If this hit something in your chest that you didn't have words for, you are exactly who this message was for. The Gold Carrier Intensive exists for the woman who is ready to unlearn the poverty gospel and step into the wealth God has already assigned her. DM me Gold Carrier to begin. And if you need permission to want more without guilt, just subscribe. We do this work here every single week.